Stop 9. Introduction. Welcome to the audio tour for Ablaze with Spirit, the exhibition of Brother Thomas's copper glazes. What you are about to hear on Stop 10 is a recording by Sister Joan Chittister from Mount St. Benedict, the priory where Brother Thomas lived as an artist-in-residence for 23 years. Sister Joan, along with Thomas's closest friends, family, and patrons, gathered in the gallery to celebrate Thomas's second posthumous exhibition. Enjoy her words, and thank you for listening.
Introduction to the work of Brother Thomas Besançon. In the 18th century, a nobleman asked William Hogarth, an artist known for what we call now sequential art, to do a large mural for the backdrop of his grand stairway. What he wanted on the mural was Pharaoh and his host drowning in the Red Sea. But, he told Hogarth, he didn't want an expensive one. Hogarth thought it over and accepted the commission. But when he applied for his payment, the employer was furious. "I have no intention," he said, "of paying a painter who did no more than lay his ground." "Ground," Hogarth said. "That is not ground, my lord. That is all sea, Red Sea. You wanted Pharaoh and his host drowned, and that's what you got. You can't see them because the Red Sea is covering them." Point. What we see is what we get. If we can't see beyond what we're looking at in art, we don't get anything beyond the obvious. It occurred to me that it really isn't possible to fully appreciate Thomas's work if you don't know the Thomas behind it. So I thought I'd take a few minutes to introduce you to the man rather than his medium, to invite you to understand the person as well as his pottery, and maybe therefore understand his pottery even better. The story of what brought Brother Thomas to a small monastery of Benedictine women in the northeast corner of Pennsylvania is circuitous and complex. But believe me, it was no accident. On the contrary, the community needed him, and he needed us too. As a community, we had just suffered a terrible loss. Our only two professional artists, young blood sisters, traveling with their parents to a family celebration, had just been killed in a two-car accident on a foggy night on a strange road in Michigan. Our little community was left bereft on two levels. First, those sisters had been much loved and were very vibrant members of the community. And second, a Benedictine monastery without an artist, as any historian knows, is a monastery with a hallowed part of its history missing. So as much as Thomas needed a place to go to work, we needed to have him here to light the flame of art again within our sisters and within our very sense of self, of who we were and who we were meant to be as a contemplative group who sees beyond the present to the eternal beauty of God. Thomas did not, you see, come to our monastery as a guest or a boarder, as a nomad or a tourist, as a pilgrim or a passer-through. No, Thomas came to us as monk and brother, who, without a monastic life, could not possibly have been the artist he was. Thomas said to me once, "I used to think that I was a monk who was also a potter. But as the years went by, I discovered that I was a potter who was also a monk." He needed the life of reflection and contemplation, of silence and stability that monasticism brings. It was out of that focused life, out of that sharpened perception and heightened insight of eternal beauty, both in us and around us, everywhere, in everything, that Thomas's art was born. Thomas was his art, you see. He himself was an admixture of vision and skill, of beauty and expertise. To understand his work, then, to know both person and potter, you have to know three things about beauty and one thing about work. Beauty, Michelangelo said, is the purgation of superfluities. In this case, fashioned by the man who was himself simple, his work, you know when you stand before it, is itself clean and stark and overwhelming for its ability to captivate, to entrance, to consume your senses. Secondly, Stendhal tells us, beauty is the promise of happiness. Like Thomas's quiet, centered presence, his work brings us to calm, to serenity, to a sense of enoughness in life. This clean, calm, centered, focused work stops our everlasting restlessness for more than itself. And finally, as George Bancroft puts it, beauty itself is the sensible image of the infinite. Everywhere Thomas went, he saw beauty and he brought beauty. He left us all with the awareness that the infinite is within us and need not be sought elsewhere. Thomas, the man, was simple, happy, and a well of the infinite, who by his work invites us to embrace simplicity, and so to find happiness, and come to know the infinite in its finite images everywhere. And finally, Thomas taught us all one thing about what it means to go through life well. On his studio wall, in the midst of all the dust and clay, and jars of glaze, and shards of vases that had not met his standards, was a small piece of hand-done calligraphy that read simply, just work. Just go on, in other words. Whatever it is you do, do it. Do it without expectation. Do it without stinting. But do it with everything in you. Do it with heart. Then whatever it is you do will be beautiful, will be of infinite worth to us all, will be both the happiness you get and the happiness you give. And that, I believe, is the gospel according to Thomas, and it is, I think, what is to be seen beyond the obvious in his great work. It is the mural of a great and holy life, and what it means to the rest of us too, to also live well.